Okay, Scott, let's go ahead and take a look. Yeah, I think the problematic logos are the first and the third. Costco seems to have some good attributes to it. It's got really wonderful contrast. I'm not crazy about using fully saturated, vibrant colors in connection with one another. I think it creates a visual vibration effect. I mean, I think we can clearly see it in this particular ad, especially right over here where all of these elements converge. I'm just a little bit concerned I always have been when I look at the Costco label. It indicates some good things. It indicates forward movement with the oblique typeface style. But I think it's a little bit congested. Okay, so in other words, the kerning, the spacing between letters is minimal. I mean, these letters are touching both in wholesale and in Costco. So, and then plus these little stripes are so packly tight together, it almost feels like I'm getting squished in a box. You see what I'm saying? Other than that, I think it's a pretty effective logo for what it is. It's not fancy, it's minimal, it's not trying to be something that it's not. Okay, so now the Barnes and Noble and the Panera logos both have issues, and I've always thought this about both of these logos. Let me share you my sentiments here. I think the Barnes and Noble, specifically the typeface and the all cap style for the words Barnes and Noble, I think it's solid. Really, it's a very traditional using a sans serif typeface, which adds a air of a contemporary flair to it. So it's modern, but it's traditional at the same time. It's very um, proud. The way that Barnes and Noble stand are very, very proud. Okay, so it's solid foundation. My problem is the ampersand, twofold on that. It doesn't have much contrast at all, so it's very, very difficult to. Actually, I've got a few issues with the ampersand. There's no contrast, so if you see this at a distance, you could possibly miss the ampersand. There's just very, very little contrast associated with those color combinations. Also, the style of the ampersand does not match the style of the typeface the words Barnes and Noble are set in. It's more casual. It's almost juvenile in its posture. The actual ampersand has a slight axis leaning to the right, which kind of throws off the balance of the logo. So my issue is it just doesn't have the traditional value that the typeface does. So my issue here is definitely the ampersand. Now the Panera logo, I think it's okay. I love the graphic, always have. I think this is it's basically kind of a movement. Now keep in mind when Panera came out, we had a lot of uh, trending styles. And if you think about it, you'll see a lot of these styles in pharmaceutical logos where they have just kind of like this swirling movement that if you look closer, it's actually of human form. And we kind of see that here, not so much to the degree that we see in other logos, but definitely reminiscent of a style that was extremely popular back in the late 90s, early 2000s. So this is definitely an aged logo. I still think that this is pretty effective, though. I've always enjoyed this little illustration. Now, the problem is there's just a huge degree of separation between the style of the typeface for Panera and this particular logo mark. So, and the reason I say that is because look how thick the strokes are. So you've got a really big variation between the thin strokes, and I'm looking at the E for the example, the thin strokes and the thick strokes, but we don't see that variation. Now we do have variation in the thin and thick strokes of the logo mark, but not as extreme as the type for Panera. So therefore it kind of puts Panera I think advances too much in the composition, and it just kind of throws off the whole balance of the way that the eye accepts the logo. So my biggest problem is the disconnect between the style of the type of Panera and the style of illustration in the word mark and the logo mark. So, okay, great job. Really, really good job. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. Thanks very much, Scott.